All right, moving on to Final Destination 2. Now, what I said in my last review is that a lot of the things I said in the first Final Destination review, I'm not going to repeat here. And because these movies have a lot of similarities, I'm not, if you want to hear my thoughts on a lot of the redundancies within this series, watch my first review. I guess I will pretty much have to have this opening for all of them. But anyway, moving on. Now, the log truck scene in this film where it breaks and it comes down, it is easily the most iconic scene in this franchise. And what I mean by that, it is the one that I see called back to the most. In all the horror groups I've ever been in, I see probably like one a week or two, somebody takes a picture of like a log truck and posts it and is like, oh, hell no, Death, you ain't getting me today. Or like, I've seen Final Destination. I'm staying back from you, or whatever. Like, this scene has stuck with people like crazy. And yet again, something I mentioned in the last one, but this one is ridiculous. The amount of time, like once they pull on to the freeway and they're driving seriously for like 3 fucking minutes. Like, she looks over, she sees these people, she sees all this and that. The log truck is in front of them, mind you. And when she stops, she pulls the car over, she's like talking to the cop. Then the log truck passes them and she's like, there it is. And like 2 seconds later, it crashes, blows up every car, whatever, and all these people die. Now, what I find out about that, and as I was saying, like the amount of time between the two is way off. But another thing that you never really think about much is that she got a whole bunch of other people killed. Like, all of them were supposed to die. And because she saw this premonition, which isn't her fault, but she actually got plenty of other people who wouldn't have died in that accident because they would have been further back on the highway probably. She did get them killed. So it's almost like this is payback for making so many other people die. I never really thought about it like that until right this second, but I came up with it in the moment and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm guessing other cars would have had to have been there and she got them killed. Bitch. No, I'm just kidding. Something a little different than the last one is that the friends in her car die instantly. Like, there is no foreshadowing. There is no nothing. Like, she saves them and they die within like 10 seconds, 20 seconds. I thought that was like, whoa, those guys didn't even have any time at all. Which is probably better for them, to be honest, because as I've said before in the last one, is like the lucky people died quick and they didn't have to be afraid and they didn't have to be watching out for death on every corner and whatever. So the friends actually kind of got off easy. They were terrified for the second they saw the truck, obviously, but I mean, they didn't have to sit around for hours or days worrying. We find out in this movie that Alex eventually did end up dying and he got hit by a freak brick falling from a window. Like, for me, that was a cheap death. Like, when I saw that, I was like, really? A brick fell and just hit him in the head and he died and that was it? And then Claire has a Polaroid picture of him laying face down because clearly they couldn't get the actor to come back just to take a picture of death. It was just like a brick in the head. Like, you couldn't have come up with something cooler than that. Now, granted, it could have been this big, elaborate Rube freaking whatever I said. What was it called again? A Rube Goldberg machine. Yeah, it could have been some big, elaborate Rube Goldberg machine type scenario, and the brick was just at the very tail end of that. We don't know because we didn't see the whole thing. We don't know how it all transpired. But it's just like a brick. I don't know. It just seemed lame to me. Doesn't matter. But I just was like, that's his death? How lame. And as I said in the last thing, it was like, Ali Larter just looks so much better in this movie. Blonde suits her so much better. And the gore in this movie is way better. Way better. So many great kills. That plate glass window coming down on that like 15-year-old kid looks fucking grotesque and amazing. I love that one. might be my favorite in this movie. It's so good. God, I love shit like that. And it definitely begs the question, like, how does Tony Todd's character know anything? I mean, he's a mortician, so he's supposed to know stuff about death, but like, yet again, like I was saying, like, what is the point of them even having these premonitions and getting warning signs? It seems like it's just fucking with them, because there's no way out of it. It's always circling around and coming to get them. They're just buying themselves another 10 minutes. I mean, I guess if I was going to die now, or I had the option to live another 5 months, like I think is like the longest these guys live, but definitely take 5 months, so it's better than nothing. But to be just living in misery and fear the whole damn time. I mean, Claire lived over a year, I guess, because it was a year since the thing, and she was still in the paddock. But look at her life. It was dreadful. Not sure that's what I would want. Now, this whole suggestion that an unborn baby's soul could save them if it was born, are they suggesting that they think that a baby doesn't have a soul until it's born? I'm not arguing whether it does or not. I'm not. This isn't some like pro-choice, pro-fucking life discussion here, but I think in order, and this is probably just the pervert in me, just in order to cover all the bases, like, let's just for a moment say that the baby already has a soul, so that wouldn't work. Maybe if we fuck and we get you pregnant, then that little egg will become a little fetus, and that fetus will then get a soul, and then we did, mess up death's design. So, yes, I'm just looking to get laid here, but it would save lives. Sex saves lives, people. That is the point. I do like the whole addition of, like, if it's not your turn, you can't kill yourself. He goes and he pulls the trigger on the gun, and it's like 6 duds in a row. I do think that if he would have jumped out the window, he probably would have died, but he didn't try past there. But I thought that was an interesting addition. I think they play into that further in the next couple. Or not the next couple, but one of the other ones. I mean, we'll see. I can't remember fully. I know that one of them tries to like murder the other ones to avert it, and that was a really cool. I think that's in like the 4th one or something. And moving on, I did like that the deaths were connected to the first movie, like, because the bus hit that girl, it stopped this girl from getting here where she would have died, or the teacher from the first one was going, he was going to replace that teacher, but he didn't, and she ended up dying, and so on and so forth. And then Death was working backwards to kind of clean up all those loose ends that it had missed getting back to clear. So, thought that was cool. Now, this is the only one to my memory where we don't get a definitive death on the last 2 characters, the cop and the main chick, the cute chick here. Like, we don't get, like, you see that Mickey Malkovich from Shameless, which is a wonderful show with Emmy Rossum. But we see him blow up at the barbecue, and then they look at each other, and the arms lands, and the mom screams that Death's great and awesome. But we don't see any definitive proof that they end up then they're dying after that. Now, it would suggest that they probably do, but we have no proof. Now, in the 3rd one, I know they said that a lot of them died. I don't know if they were like definitive, yes, these other 2 people died in it. But I don't know. I mean, this one's kind of still up for debate. Did they avert death? Or was that just suggesting like it skipped them because of this guy? Now they're bringing it back and coming backwards again, killing him and killing them, which is more than likely what it was meaning. But we did not see them die. And Keegan Connor Tracy. She is a beautiful woman, and let me tell you what, man, that chick hasn't aged a day. Like, you watch Bates Motel or anything else she's been in lately, I mean, the chick's like 46 now. She's like early 30s in this movie. She looks exactly the same. She's ageless. Eugene in this movie, for some reason, Death is out to get more than anyone else I've seen in this series so far, and I've watched the first 3 so far at the moment. Like, usually when Death is going after people in these movies, it's like little tiny things. Like, it puts little tiny, like, it's just like pushing one domino and then the rest of the machine goes. But this one for him, like, it was like pushing everything around the room and this way and that way. Like, nothing was setting these things into motion. They were all just moving on their own. Like, Death had it out for this dude. I don't know what was up with that. Like, Death seemed angry. Like, I'm done with this shit. I'm done with setting up all these dominoes. I'm just gonna fucking kill this guy. Yes, pushing all those things into place ended up killing Clear and Eugene. So I guess it could be an elaborate thing, but it just seemed to be, I don't know, going outside of the rules, I suppose. I guess there really isn't any rules, but it just seemed like it was kind of stepping outside of the rules of what it had set up before. It just seemed like Death could intervene a little tiny bit. Like, if it can do that much, why isn't it just killing them outright, like, instantly? Like, I don't know, that one, it just seemed heavy-handed to me. Like, the writers just didn't know what else to do in that moment, or less like, oh man, I don't want to write another, like, this falls here and this goes in here and this falls here. It was almost like they were creatively exhausted by that point, because then even the girl just goes in the water and the person revives them. And then the next guy, he just goes over to the barbecue and it blows up. Like, there's no thought put into, like, the last 3 deaths. So it makes me wonder if they were just kind of like, I don't know, man, this falls here and this, and it's just like, we don't have enough time. Let's get this out. That's the way it felt for me. Maybe I'm wrong, but whatever. And yeah, so that's it. Moving on to part 3.